You'll never reach financial success unless you grasp this core concept. This is where you currently stand, and this is where you aspire to be. The space in between? That's what I call the performance gap. The defining difference between someone who achieves millionaire status and someone who doesn't lies in their unwavering focus on closing this gap. For most people, their path looks erratic, up, down, and all over the place, never quite reaching their final goal. Someone who becomes a millionaire by their 50s might follow a more gradual but determined path. My journey, however, was different. I managed to bridge the gap quickly, traveling from point A to point B in a relatively short amount of time. The reason? I had no other choice. I wasn't particularly talented or exceptionally smart, nor did I have any notable qualifications to my name. After a bad experience with my first boss, I decided to leave the 9-to-5 grind behind. That breaking point pushed me to make a promise to achieve wealth as quickly as I could. I committed myself completely to closing the performance gap, trying everything possible. By my 20s, I had become a millionaire. If there's one takeaway from this, it's this: how much money you make directly correlates with the perceived value you provide. In simpler terms, the larger the problem you solve for others, the more money you'll earn and the faster you'll close the performance gap. To get started, I encourage you to grab a sheet of paper and draw a Venn diagram. In one circle, list activities you genuinely enjoy doing, your passions. If I were filling it out, my list would include raiding cars, flying planes, traveling, and playing golf. Write down whatever brings you joy. Go all out. The next circle is for your skills, the things you're particularly good at. For example, I jot down having meaningful conversations, building models, leading teams, and working with carpentry. Finally, in the third circle, list what people will pay significant money for. Consulting, creating structures, or designing advanced mechanics would go here. Many people fall into the trap of focusing on just one of these circles when deciding their career path. Imagine choosing a job solely because you love it but barely making enough to get by. Over time, that passion can turn into resentment, a true passion killer. Or take another scenario. You're good at something and decide to make it your career, but despite working hard every day, you don't earn what you're worth and stay stuck in your comfort zone. On the other hand, choosing a role just because it pays well might sound practical until you're miserable every day doing it. The secret to both happiness and wealth lies in finding the intersection of these three circles, a sweet spot I call the value zone. That's where your passion meets your skill and aligns with what people are willing to pay for. I was fortunate enough to discover my value zone early by blending my love for model helicopters with my knack for building models and turning that into something others valued. This allowed me to open multiple model shops and build my own brand, which ultimately sold worldwide. The mistake many people make with business is starting backward. They chase the trending side hustle or method first, and then try to adapt themselves to it. The smarter approach is identifying your value zone first, and then finding the right side hustle or business opportunity that fits naturally with it. Now that you know about the value zone, it's time to pick the right vehicle, one that takes you straight to your destination without unnecessary detours. Here's something to consider. Would you rather own assets worth $1 million or generate $1 million annually? It's tempting to say both, isn't it? To achieve that, you'll need two distinct vehicles, one for generating income and another for multiplying it through investments. Let's dive into the essentials of creating wealth, starting with earning money. Think of your active income stream as a motorbike, fast, dynamic, and capable of taking you places. You have several options: a product-based business like I started with, a content-focused venture like making YouTube videos, or my personal favorite, a service-based business. You might be wondering why I favor service-based businesses when I also produce products and make content. The answer boils down to one word: timing. And by timing, I'm not referring to market timing, but rather the timing in your career path. Your first side hustle should ideally have the capacity to generate around $100,000 annually. However, the endeavor that propels you to $1 million or even $10 million likely won't be the same one you start with. In the beginning, resources are usually scarce. That's why launching a service-based business is often the smartest move. It demands minimal startup costs and, even better, can be executed from a laptop in your spare time. Revisit your brainstorming diagram and identify a service you can offer that aligns with your skills and strengths, your value zone. Now let's talk about investing money, which is your passive income vehicle. Think of it as the sidecar to your motorbike. If you've seen Harry Potter, you'll get the reference. Many people approach investing like just another hustle, chasing it with a get-rich-quick mindset. But here's the truth. Investing isn't about immediate riches. It's a tool for consistent wealth growth, and when done right, it can be practically hands-off. Set it and forget it. Once you've set up your free account on an investment platform, you'll encounter something called pies. These pies represent customizable stock portfolios. For example, say you create a pie with 25% in Tesla, 25% in Meta, and 50% in Google. If you invest $100 into this pie, $25 would go into Tesla, $25 into Meta, and $50 into Google. The platform lets you decide how frequently you want to invest, daily, weekly, or monthly. To make this process easy, let's explore it step by step together in this video. You can choose from pre-made pies with themes such as companies that pay dividends or those focusing on AI innovation. While these pre-designed pies are useful for inspiration, it's always better to do your own stock research rather than rely entirely on someone else's choices. If you're just getting started, I recommend selecting the S&P 500 Index Fund in one click. You're investing in approximately 500 of the largest publicly traded companies in the US. The value projection features are also really encouraging. For instance, if you were to invest £5 per day for 25 years, you'd only contribute £45,000 out of pocket, but your portfolio could grow to £1.04 million based on historical averages. Stretch that out to 40 years, and your portfolio might hit £17.34 million. It sounds incredible, but of course, investing has its risks. Yes, stocks can fluctuate. Even the S&P 500 has its ups and downs. However, history tells us that holding on to investments for the long term pays off. Since 1950, every market dip has been followed by a recovery. To put it simply, no one who has held on to their investments for over 20 years has ever lost money. Personally, the S&P 500 has played a huge role in building my wealth effortlessly. That's why I'm such a big advocate for it. Since this video already features the Trading 212 app, I decided to reach out to them about a potential sponsorship, and good news, they agreed to partner on this video. If you use the promo code Tilbury when signing up for an account with them, you'll receive a free stock worth up to £100. Plus, you'll earn additional free stocks by inviting your friends. Both of you benefit a free share each, as long as they fund their account. Now that you've established your value zone, secured an active income-generating method, and set up a passive investment app, it's time to shift focus to the next phase. One of the most misleading myths often spread by self-proclaimed gurus is the notion that you need 7 different streams of income to succeed and achieve your goals. This advice often results in people juggling too many income sources alongside their social lives, which eventually leads to burnout and a lack of focus. It's crucial to recognize your 3 major limited resources: money, time, and energy. To get started, grab a piece of paper and 3 pens in different colors. Begin by listing everything you do in life. Include all activities without exception. Next, draw a graph divided into segments based on the number of items on your list. For instance, my example had 6 segments, but yours might require more or fewer. Use one color to shade the proportion of money you spend monthly on each segment, another to represent the time you dedicate, and a third to illustrate the energy each task demands. In the end, you'll have a visual overview that looks something like this. Here's the important part. Your resources are finite. While you may find ways to increase your income, boosting your energy, and especially your time, is far less feasible. When I conduct this exercise with others, it's shocking how scattered their resources tend to be across various areas. Achieving work-life balance is valid, but if you're aiming to build wealth quickly, you must narrow your focus. I remember when I was building my first business, I poured every ounce of my resources into it. Sure, it meant sacrificing a significant portion of my social life, neglecting fitness, and spending little time with family. Was that healthy? Probably not. But did it help me succeed? Absolutely. By channeling everything into one venture for an extended period, I reached my goal of becoming a millionaire. Only then did I restore balance to my life. Early on, when money and a solid team were lacking, even minor distractions had the potential to derail my efforts. Nowadays, focus seems undervalued. I see countless young individuals hopping from one side hustle to another, falling prey to shiny object syndrome. Constantly switching gears whenever a challenge arises puts you back at square one and delays any real progress. This is where your graph becomes a game changer. Review it and ask yourself, could you cut back on certain activities and reinvest those resources elsewhere? For instance, in my own example, eliminating TikTok, Xbox, and dating freed up considerable time, money, and energy, which I redirected towards side hustles instead. This reallocation could drastically shorten the timeline for achieving your dreams. There's a powerful quote by Jim Rohn that reminds us, if you truly want something, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. Closing the performance gap hinges on understanding the distinction between obstacles and excuses. Picture this. You are here, and your dreams are there. Between you and those dreams lie obstacles that you need to tackle to turn them into reality. Reflecting on my past reminds me how difficult those younger years were. As someone who's dyslexic, I was often labeled as lazy or unintelligent by my teachers. Leaving school with no qualifications didn't help my prospects either. And once I entered the workforce, I faced bullying from my manager. These obstacles felt monumental at the time, but I refused to let them become excuses. No matter how challenging your own hurdles may be, it's essential to make overcoming them your mission. Doing so is the key to unlocking your full potential and realizing your dreams. When you let obstacles morph into excuses, these excuses become the barriers that keep you from reaching your dreams. In the end, you're left facing those excuses with your aspirations still out of reach. Excuses, not obstacles, are often the primary reason people fail to narrow the performance gap. Whenever someone tells me they can't do something, I respond with, I know you can't right now, but if you could, what would you do? If you're ever confronted with a seemingly insurmountable challenge, pose this same question to yourself. Start brainstorming solutions, lots of them, and write each one down. The next step is crucial. Start testing those solutions. Sure, many won't work, but persistence will eventually lead to success. If you've been following my content for a while, you've likely heard me emphasize how your net worth can accelerate dramatically after hitting $100,000. The key reason? The power of the compound effect. There's even speculation that Albert Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world, saying, he who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. While I've demonstrated in previous discussions how this principle applies to financial investing, it's arguably even more critical when applied to building your knowledge bank. Many people fail to bridge the final gap in their personal or professional growth for a simple reason. Once they leave school, they stop learning. Let me show you why halting your growth can be a major misstep. Picture the initial blocks of knowledge you gained in school, basic concepts in subjects like English or math. For me, these were the foundational principles I carried forward. Continuing to place yourself in challenging scenarios allows you to deepen and expand upon these foundations. When I started out, I worked as a carpenter's apprentice and dabbled in various side hustles. This hands-on experience taught me practical skills, especially learning how to persuade others to pay for my services. As you grow your knowledge base, you'll begin noticing patterns and connections that were invisible before. Each new insight builds upon the last, creating exponential growth. If you remain committed to lifelong learning, you'll amass a treasure trove of knowledge that will serve you well over time. That's why wisdom can only be gained through experience layered over years of continuous effort. Today, every decision I make stems from decades of learning and reflection. However, without a solid foundation, you can't ignite the compounding effect of knowledge. This can lead to significant gaps that might ultimately cause everything to come crashing down. Closing that gap is hard work. It requires effort and sacrifice. But ask yourself this. If you're not willing to make sacrifices for your dream, are you prepared to let your dream become the sacrifice? If you want to dig even deeper into how the compounding effect can transform your net worth after $100,000, check out my next video where I break it all down. But before you head over there, make sure to subscribe if you're committed to growing your wealth. I'll meet you in the next video.